All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Dear Editor. This is an educational series from the Research Medical Library where we discuss topics on scientific writing and publishing. And after today's session, as always, we're going to share the slides, a copy of the slides, and we will have a handout for you with some additional resources. And we're also recording today's session, and we'll send you a link to the recording. And you can also join the Dear Editor team to see previous slides, handouts, and recordings, or if you want to continue the conversation or have additional questions. My name is Erica Goodoff, and joining me today is Ashley Villarreal. And we're going to be talking to you about how to get started writing your paper, and also, once you've started writing, how to continue writing your paper. So if you have any questions throughout, we're a relatively small group, it looks like this morning. So you can either type your questions in the chat, or if you like, you can unmute and ask, and we will be happy to answer your questions. Okay, so why don't we start this morning with a poll. Whoops, that was a silly photo there. Let's go ahead and launch this. Um, so Um, so we're going to start by asking this question. What do you do when you get writer's block? And if you don't like any of these answers, you can type what you actually do into the chat and we can take it from there. Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured we'd get at least one of those. Okay. Here we go. Give it a couple more seconds. All right. Looks like we got a couple of responses to this. So I will share the results. We're not a big group, so not a statistically significant response to this survey question at all. But as expected, got a couple of different answers. Someone was very honest and said, you know what, I panic and procrastinate when I have writer's block. That sounds very familiar to me. Others of you had are very positive and say, hey, I'm going to make an outline. I'm going to start with something easy. Those are great ways to start writing your paper. And we're going to talk about those and a couple others here in a moment. So we will move on from that. And let's see. Let's talk first of all about some myths about writing. I think one of the things that people tend to get hung up on when writing a paper is thinking the things that lead to the panic and procrastination that at least a couple of you honestly admitted was what you do when you aren't sure how to start writing. I think one of the things that often leads to that is just sort of an emotional barrier of, oh no, I'm not a good writer. And let's start with that. That's one of the most common myths that people have about writing. Oh, I writing takes innate talent. I have to be a good writer. The fact is, there's really no such thing. Good writing, when you see it, is something that has had a lot of work put into it. Nobody just sits down and is like, oh, the muses are just going to tell me exactly what to write. Here it is. Now it's all done in one fell swoop. It does not work like that. Good writing takes a lot of work and a lot of revision, and it's going to take you a bit to get there. And I think in particular, when talking about scientific writing, this type of writing, think about the product. We're not doing creative writing here. People are coming to read your paper because they want to know the information. They want to know about your research. They want to know what you found. So that's really what your reader is after. So one of the things that I think can help overcome like this, idea is to remember your readers are there for your information and to focus on the product rather than on you. Another common writing myth. All writers have the same habits. We all do it the same way. I promise you this is not this is not the case at all. There are different approaches that work better for different people. And just like so many things in life, no two brains are wired the same way. So we all have different approaches to get to the result that we want. And this is true of so many things, not just writing. But the key here is to find the approach that works for you. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have a couple of ideas in mind for what things you can do to make some good habits and make sure that the writing gets done when you need it to. Another common myth, there's one right way to say something. There is definitely not one right way to say something. And I can say this as somebody who sees writing, who edits writing from a lot of different people. There are many ways to say things. One of the things that I try to do as an editor is make sure that I've preserved an author's voice. But part of the thing that you learn in doing that is there are a lot of ways to say something, even if it wasn't necessarily what I would have come up with myself. Um, and so I think it's helpful to remember that writing, especially communicating information of this type, it's problem solving. Um, Whereas communicating and having a conversation with someone, you can ask questions, you can go back and forth. Writing, you have one chance to say the thing and hope that everybody gets it. So you really are solving a problem when you do that. And if you put down something on paper and then look at it later and think, oh, that's not right. There's a lot of different ways that you can maybe make that better. So if you start with, so what you start with on a first draft isn't going to be the right way and may not end up being what you end up with. You can always revise your writing later. And it's important to remember that. And finally, there's this idea. Oh, good writers say it perfectly the first time. I promise you that is not true. I've written enough stuff myself, and my first drafts are usually terrible. That's okay. That's expected. There's going to be work put in. You're going to change what you wrote. And you know what? Nobody has to ever see your first draft. You can rewrite that as many times as you like. And when you see good writing, you don't ever see that process of how much work has gone into it. But if you pick up a piece of text and you think this is really easy to read and understand, I promise you somebody has worked that text over a lot of times to get it to that point. So it's important to remember that too. When you're trying to get started, don't think that I have to do it perfectly the first time. I have to do it a certain way. You'll get there. It's a process. So with that in mind, how do you get started? And that was kind of the central question we wanted to answer with this session today. What do you do when you know you have this paper, you have to write it, and you just are staring at, the blank piece of paper or the blank screen at this point, and you're thinking, oh gosh, how do I even get there? I mean, the first thing is, what are you even trying to say? And sometimes that's a question that's difficult to answer. So sometimes it just starts with coming up with the ideas. What's this even about? And if you just look at it and you're just, okay, I'm completely blanking here. I have no idea what I'm even doing. Sometimes it helps to start by just making a list of tasks you need to do because that's a little bit easier. Generating ideas, maybe your brain isn't ready to do that, but you can say, okay, I'm going to need a certain amount of things that I have to put in each section. Okay, well, wait a minute. What sections do I need to write on this paper? Let's start with that. Oh, what information do I need to convey? Oh, I'm going to need to make some figures. Oh, I'm going to need to make some tables. Oh, I need to talk to my co-authors. You can just start by thinking about that, and that'll get you into a mode of focusing on it. Another thing with any type of writing, but certainly with this as well, is you could just let it percolate. Think to yourself, okay, well, I need to answer this research question. Wow, how am I going to do that? Sometimes thinking about it somewhere not in front of your desk can be helpful there. Think about it while you're taking a shower, while you're taking a walk, doing something else completely. Just kind of let the ideas roam around in your head, and you'll eventually get to the point where, oh, okay, there's something I can land on. Sort of related to that, you can think out loud. If you have a colleague who you want to talk to about your research or like to talk to about your research, that's a great place. If you have a very patient spouse or friend who is willing to help you think through these sort of things, that can be helpful too. Always want to caution with that if you're talking about, patient data or something that's confidential. Make sure you choose your friend wisely. Somebody who isn't going to, do something wrong with your information. But there are a lot of people in your life who probably fit this bill for you. Um, you can also start by warming up. Start with, you've thought about these list of tasks. Do something that's really easy and doesn't require a lot of thought. For some people, you've already put together maybe a reference list. Start with that. You can start by thinking about your methods section if you're writing a research paper. That's usually fairly straightforward. Oh, describe how I did this task. Okay, well, this is really easy. Um, and the last thing on this list, you know what? We have an AI tool that did not exist a couple of years ago. Sometimes that's the way to go when you don't know how to start. I will say, as every responsible information professional will say, of course, use this carefully. Again, with the confidentiality, this is even more so a caution with machine learning tools than it is with, people that you know. But also, let's go back to that point again about first drafts are often not very good. Even if it cranks out something that is aggressively generic and not great, hey, you got started. Um, so I think that's actually a good use of the tools that we now have available. And on that point, I did want to point out this this session, dear editor, we're going to have one next month that's about some use cases for Copilot. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, that's a whole other topic, as you know. So moving on from there, once you have these ideas and you've started percolating, then you have to start putting them into some kind of order. So you have this list of ideas. So now you have to organize them. Sometimes this can just be a matter of making a bullet list. Sometimes some people find it helpful to do like sticky notes and then like physically rearrange them. You can do this. There are lots of digital tools that will do this for you as well now. Um, so just kind of putting your ideas into an order or start grouping them or something like that is a good place to go with once you have your list of ideas generated. Another thing you can start doing is ask these journalistic questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Did I answer all of these, especially if you're writing like the introduction section of a paper? That's really where you start addressing those questions, the rationale, things that require a little bit of a persuasive element. Sometimes starting with those basic questions is a good place to go to start. And you can be as formal as you want or not. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, if we had teachers tell us, oh, you should make an outline, it was okay, you had to have section A, and then you had section 1, 2, and 3, and then you had little lowercase. You don't have to be anywhere near that formal with it. This is just for you. You can organize it however you want. You can write it every direction on the paper, sticky notes, however works for you. The point is to get your ideas into an order that you can make sense of and work with from there. So those are some ways to get started. I'm going to hand it over now to Ashley to tell you how to keep going once you've gotten started.
So once you've gotten started, we want to keep that momentum going, right? And there's a few different ways that we can do this. So first, we can schedule our writing time. So we want to make sure that we make this an appointment to yourself, a commitment to yourself. So choose something consistent, something that you can reliably participate in maybe every week, 2 hours every Friday, whatever works in your schedule. And you want to make sure that it's productive. And so a way that I like doing that is instead of sitting down and saying, I'm going to write this thing, I like to set myself small goals. So maybe this session, I am focusing on this topic, and then let's get this topic done. And if it's a larger topic, you can even break that down into even smaller goals and smaller bits. And so, kind of bouncing off of what Erica said in the beginning, maybe you can work on your methods first or a specific subsection of your methods. You want to set deadlines for yourself. So I like to work backwards. So let's say you want to submit something in the middle of October. You can work backwards from that and say, okay, I want a week to do this. I want a week to do this, and then um, build out your deadline that way. And these three things can kind of help you with accountability, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But all of these together can help keep you accountable to yourself with scheduling. And during our scheduled time, we want to stay productive. And so there's a few different ways that we can do that. We want to make sure that we have a good environment for our writing. So perhaps writing in a busy coffee shop is your cup of tea or coffee, or maybe secluding yourself in your office, closing the door, putting on some good headphones with a nice playlist is what you like. You want to do something that is comfortable, but not too comfortable. And we want to manage our time because y'all are so busy. And so carving out that time can take some effort, and we want to make sure that that time can be productive. So maybe you could use the Pomodoro technique. So 25 minutes of intense writing, turning off notifications, putting everything away, and then taking a 5 minute walk down, if you're working from home, walk down the block to check your mailbox, a walk to refill your water bottle, and then come back for another 25 minutes of work. Um, we can break those larger chunks into smaller chunks in this Pomodoro technique. So maybe this 25 minutes you work on this subsection, and okay, I'm done with that. So the next 25 minutes you can work on the next section. Um, Another good time management technique is setting a to-do list. So sometimes having a physical to-do list really helps people keep that motivation to keep writing. Writing down these big goals can sometimes help. So I love using sticky notes. And then it's very satisfying to me to be able to take them off my monitor when I'm done with things. And above all else, we want to keep ourselves accountable. So again, using scheduled time can help keep us accountable. Finding a writing group is another handy tip for keeping accountable. Sometimes that means people who are writing the same thing as you. Sometimes that means just getting together with other people who are just writing. So being in that similar environment can sometimes help. Um, we also have a writing coach program, which I'll talk about in just a little bit, that can help keep you accountable. But above all, just setting clear goals and deadlines can really, really help. And something small that I like to do is like rewarding myself. So if I finish this task, then maybe I get up and like watch my bird feeder for a little bit, whatever little motivation thing that can really help you get through that part that you're working on. And then, um, what if you're stuck in the middle? So, we've gotten started, we're keep going, but now you're at a standstill. First, think about why you're stuck. What are you struggling with? Are you struggling with just this section that you're in? Maybe it's time to take a break and come back to this section in just a little bit. Maybe it's time to revisit the outline that you wrote before, to try to kind of reorient yourself with what you're doing. If you're getting too in the weeds, maybe taking a step back. Sometimes you just get too familiar with the project. So taking just a day or two if you're writing frequently, or take a week if you can fit it into your timeline, um, at least from that section, can help give you fresh eyes on your project. I really like distancing myself from projects if I feel like I'm getting stuck, and talking to people, your trusted coworker or spouse or friend. A general query to Copilot might help. All of these things to kind of get those not creative, but those thinking juices going again, whatever you need to do that. And so this kind of leads to our second poll. This is just a type in the box if you feel comfortable. Where do you tend to find yourself getting stuck, or what is the hardest part of the writing process for you, if you feel comfortable sharing? I find oftentimes it's getting started, just staring at that blank screen, right? The blank page, staring at that dreaded blank page is just so hard for me. So what I like to do is I like to just get something down, even if it doesn't make the final cut. Sometimes just getting a sent down helps. I like to put at the very top, I'll put like purpose or aim or goal and a colon, and then just a sentence of what I'm trying to do. Um, and that can help just, get things going. And then if that doesn't work, I like to, as Erica mentioned earlier, I like to compile my resources, because that will kind of get me into the thinking zone, I guess. Yeah, the results can be pretty difficult too. Yeah, the
Mhm.
consistency. I think the coach program can help with that. Writing buddies can help with that. With results, maybe compiling everything, so breaking that into smaller chunks. So perhaps compiling all of your data in small sections might help. So if you can break it up into smaller parts and focusing on writing smaller parts might help. I mean, it might take a little more brainstorming to figure out what exactly is difficult about writing the results, because I think the strategies for tackling that are a little different. But
Hmm.
um, something that can help with all of these things is the our new writing coach service. So it's a one-on-one coaching with a dedicated scientific editor about one project, one manuscript. So we really work to meet you where you're at. So if you're at the beginning and you're staring at that blank page, we can help come up with strategies and accountability to keep consistent with writing. So sometimes that could be your coach gives you a little bit of space to write, and we just give you some like weekly or bi-weekly check-ins saying, hey, how's everything going? Let's make a plan together. We can help with specific parts. So if it's the results, then we can break down why the results are difficult and come up with a strategy to help with that. It's super flexible and it's really designed to meet you where you are and give you the support that you need. We also have the WAPSA course, which is an online self-paced course, and it covers writing all the parts of a scientific manuscript. So if you're having difficulties with the results or the introduction, there's sections specifically for those parts. And if it goes into much more detail and depth about common pitfalls of each part. Um, and then we also have in the handout that you'll get after our presentation or our meeting is some links to some articles on advice from fellow MD Anderson faculty members on how they stay on task and how they stay productive. So some tips and tricks that they like to use. And we also have the editing services just as a whole. So we offer, one-off consultations with writing. If you just feel that you need just like a little boost, or if you're just stuck in one little spot, we can help with that. And then at the very end of your process, we can definitely help in editing your manuscript if that's something that you get stuck on too. And then that is all of the resources I have, unless Erica thought of any after our poll.
No, but I did have our handout is going to include a couple of also. We mentioned the Pomodoro technique. We have, we'll put you to a website that might help you with that. You don't have to do it that way. You can just you can set a physical timer if that's easier for you. But I want to kind of give you an example of that. So yeah, I will. That was the end of our presentation today, but if anyone has any other questions or comments, please feel free to type them in the chat or speak up. But we are almost at the end of the half hour. So I did want to point out again that Dear Editor will be back next month. We're having a tutorial about use cases for Copilot. We mentioned a couple here, generating ideas is one. There are certainly others. That's certainly becoming more and more popular. Other things the library has upcoming, we have a EndNote tutorial coming up, I think next week it looks like. And also, if you're looking for tools generally, Tool Time Tuesday, we've got every other week starting. The next one is, in fact, next Tuesday. And it looks like one of our participants was asking more about the writing coach information. We do have a link to how you can sign up for that on our website in the handout. And as Ashley said, it really is meant to be individual. It's working with someone individually who can help you overcome whatever struggles it is that you have, work on a particular paper, get started writing a paper, get finished writing a paper. I've had a couple of clients who are struggling with, I just need to get this out the door. Sometimes you just need another person to be accountable to for that. But it's really, it kind of depends on what needs you have. So hopefully that will be something that's useful for you. But did you have any other specific questions? Great. Yes, happy to share information. That is what we do. Um, so yes, we'll have links to WAPSA as well for you on the handout. And see, and also I will send out a survey as well with the resources. So, okay, great. Give it just a moment, but I'm not seeing any. Okay, well, I hope everyone, it looks like we shared a lot of information. I hope everybody got something out of this, even if it was just one tip. That's what these are for. And as I said, we'll follow up in a bit. And otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon.